Welcome back. All right, so Thursday, news of the day. Another beautiful day in the Lower Mainland here. As we look at news from around the National Hockey League. And the top newsmaker, this was revealed yesterday, that the NHL is setting October 12th as the start date for next season. I don't see any reason why that date wouldn't work. That's about a week after the usual start date. I think the opening of training camps is September 22nd. You're not going to have a lot of exhibition games. You probably have one or two, which I think is fine. I think a couple of exhibition games is fine. Just get prospects out there and the guys who are fringe players, maybe guys on PTOs, see how they do, and then you've got your lineup set for the regular season. So they're aiming at an 82 game schedule. They are also aiming to have all the regular divisions as they normally would be. Keep in mind, Arizona would be in the Central, Seattle replaces them in the Pacific, and everything back to as close to normal as possible in October. That should be fine. That should all work out. And yeah, and again, I'm saying should because we don't know. We just don't know, but that should work out just fine. And yeah, so October 12th started the 2021-2022 season, and I'm on the waiting list to see if there's the chance that the Vancouver Canucks will have season ticket holders there, and I don't plan on having a full season because I have the channel here, and if every time the Canucks are at home, well, Shannon's posting the review at about midnight, so yeah, so I'm aiming at probably like 10 games is what I'm hoping for out of Vancouver, but fingers crossed on that, and then there's also hope that we'll be able to travel by the end of the year, and that could hopefully mean heading to the States. So, again, fingers crossed, nothing guaranteed. We'll see what the NHL does. Speaking of nothing guaranteed, Nova Scotia has decided they don't feel comfortable with the IIHF Women's Championships coming in. That was set to start in a few weeks. The IIHF, because it's such a short time in between when the championship was supposed to start, and Nova Scotia told them that they're not having the tournament there. They're officially saying it's canceled, but they're hoping to have it later this summer. And we'll see how the logistics work on that, where they have it, how all that works out. I do wish them the best. The challenges that face women's hockey as it tries to grow and find that identity and get that foothold, it's there, and I do hope they overcome that, and get to that level they'd like to be at. So yeah, hopefully they find a way to make the IIHF Women's Worlds take place. But again, I don't necessarily have any issue with the province of Nova Scotia saying not right now, not right now. Luke Conan. So if you're a Buffalo fan, you've been like, when's Luke Conan going to get a look? He gets a look tomorrow against Boston. So it's Tokarski in net tonight for Buffalo. It's Luke Conan in net tomorrow night for Buffalo. You get a look, a glimpse of the future in net tomorrow, and we'll see how things go. Young goaltenders have been all the rage this year. They've done very well. And this is a league that used to be that if a goaltender came up and he was below a certain age, he's probably going to have a pretty rough night. And this year, that has maybe happened a couple of times, but in general, young goaltenders have done pretty well. So, yeah, we'll see how Luke Conan does tomorrow night. And maybe have him against Swayman. Maybe have Swayman the backup. I know it's not going to happen. But have Swayman in net and Rask as the backup and Swayman versus Luke Conan, and that could maybe give us a look at how the battles between Buffalo and Boston are going to look 3-5 years from now. All right, or perhaps next year. We don't know how quickly things are going to turn around when it comes to goaltenders in either Boston or Buffalo. So Columbus news. Zach Delpy, his wife is having a baby, so he's away from the team today, which to me is why Domi's probably back in the lineup. So Domi's going to play tonight. He has said it wasn't fun being a healthy scratch. It's not intended to be fun to be the healthy scratch. There's a couple reasons you do it. One, the player is he is seen as an extra. He's seen as the number 7 defenseman, the number 13 forward, the extra guy, or he hasn't been performing very well, and so you got to get him out of the lineup. Those are the two reasons for healthy scratches, and he's been in the latter group, which is they don't feel like he's been performing very well. The number of penalty minutes taken in the last few games, alarming, and yeah, so now that Domi's back in the lineup, he has to show he deserves to belong in the lineup going forward. We'll see how he does tonight for Columbus as they're against Tampa. So it's not an easy test, but I do still think Max Domi can be a talented player, and we'll see what happens with him at the end of this season. Nick Foligno, a former Columbus Blue Jacket, who may be a future Columbus Blue Jacket once again. He debuts tonight with Toronto. He has said all the right things about being excited to be a Maple Leaf. I don't have any reason to doubt him. And he debuts tonight on a line with Matthews and Marner. Is this the standard thing now? All right, you're brand new, and you're on a line with Matthews and Marner. I'm just here to drop off some sticks. Yep, no, you've got Toronto gear there. I don't. It's just a T-shirt. Whatever. You're on a line with Matthews and Marner. Just stand right there in front of the net. You'll probably get a goal. It feels like there's this rotating wing there. Thornton came in right on that wing. Galchenyuk comes in right on that wing, and now Foligno's there. And of course, when Hyman comes back, there you go. So we'll see how it goes for Foligno. I know that the effort's there, the leadership is there, the experience is there. Any points he provides, they are a bonus. At this stage in his career, I'll be interested to see how he does with Matthews and Marner. With all the games that are going on tonight, I will focus in mostly on the games between top teams. So I will definitely pay close attention to Winnipeg and Toronto. That should be a fascinating game. Robin Lehner came out, and it's funny with Lehner. I admire the guy for being willing to come out and talk about stuff that other people don't. And he does this. So his statement is that the NHL said to players, hey, when we get a certain number of players that are vaccinated, we'll relax the COVID restrictions. So Vegas Golden Knights are fully vaccinated, and he's saying basically they've been told, well, you still got to keep all the restrictions. And the restrictions, they are restrictions. And it's been tough. And players have said this season's been tough. The reasoning the NHL's using, I don't like. They're basically saying unless every team has the same level of freedom, then they're not willing to provide that freedom just to certain teams. I disagree. And I'd be very surprised if players on the Canadian side of the border, where they're not vaccinated, I'd be very surprised if they felt that this was fair. I honestly, I think competitive advantage is the term that the NHL used. I don't even know that there is much of a competitive advantage. If Robin Lehner can get together on the weekend with William Karlsson and their families, and they can go out to the lake, they can go wherever, and they can go do things that they can't do right now because of the restrictions. I don't see how that's a competitive advantage over another team. And so, yeah, I'm with Lehner on this one. And I'm not saying that the NHL's lying. Like, the NHL's come out and said, we never promised that. It sounds to me like a situation where the NHL's like, we really think this would be great if players did this, and then we can look at maybe loosening restrictions. And so he heard that and goes, okay, so once we get this done, you guys are going to loosen restrictions. Well, think about it. And then they get it done and they go, nah, we're not going to do that. So we'll see what happens. Like, as a for instance, being in Canada and, things have been slow on this side of the border, and they're going much smoother in the US in terms of people getting their shots. And I'm not angry with people who get their shots. I'm not angry that I see them out. I'm like, oh, all those people, and that's not fair. And they've got a competitive advantage over, I can't see hockey players being that way either. I really can't. I don't think players north of the border would be upset that players south of the border get to go out, enjoy themselves, and mental health is really important. And Robin Lehner's absolutely right about that. And the NHL doesn't have a great track record when it comes to looking after players' mental health, either while they're current players or after their retirements either, right? So, Lehner, maybe he could have said it better, and he did come out on Twitter after and say, look, it came out sounding worse than what it was. That's why I'm not putting exactly what he said up here. But he's frustrated, and a lot of people are frustrated. It's been a frustrating year. I don't blame him. And he's a guy that, once everything's all done and we can all look back on this, he would be a hockey player that if you said, hey, who would you want to sit down and have a beer with? Lehner would be near the top of the list, because I think you'd get more interesting and probably more honest comments from Lehner than you might get from other hockey players. He just doesn't seem to have the filter other hockey players do, which is going to make some people not like him and other people like him more. It's just how that works. So this is something we've been tracking throughout the year too, and this is an interesting turn. So there's a GM's call yesterday, and the CHL transfer might be in trouble. So the agreement between the NHL and CHL expires this year anyways, which is that if a player under the age of, I think it's under the age of 20, can't make my NHL team, and they have they're a CHL player, then I can't send them to the American Hockey League. I have to send them back to their CHL team. So I might be taking a player who in training camp I look at and I say, well, he's physically mature, he's not quite ready for the NHL. And I might look at, let's say, Sioux Greyhounds or his farm team, his CHL team. He's probably too good to go back to the Sioux Greyhounds. He's not going to learn anything at the OHL level. I think he's graduated from that. He's good. He's already learned everything he can at that level. But I'm not allowed to send him to the American Hockey League because that's in the transfer agreement. I'm not allowed. So I have to send him back to the CHL where he can't learn anything, or keep him in the NHL where he may not be ready, and I might be stunting his growth in the process. So it's been a tough position GMs have found themselves in, and they kind of want it to change. They want exceptions. They want there to be exceptions. And I think, honestly, for the CHL, I think it'll probably become a cash situation where, okay, the Oshawa Generals would get this player back, but we're going to put him in the American Hockey League. So we'll give an infusion of cash to the Oshawa Generals to try to make up for the fact they've lost this player. So they can use that money for recruitment, for training, developing, to get themselves new equipment, whatever it is, right? I think that's maybe where we end up with this. The CHL transfer, I've understood it. The CHL basically has this reasoning and rationale behind it. We create these star players. The NHL will then draft those star players. If they're allowed to keep them in the American Hockey League, we no longer have star players that we can market. We lose our star players. And honestly, the number of players that I think would be affected by this change, I don't think would be that great. But I understand where the CHL is coming from as well. But from a perspective of teams this year, so the OHL not playing at all this year, there's been an opportunity for players to spend the whole year in the AHL, and GMs like what they're seeing. It is a league meant for development, and it's funny too because there's been times where I've seen AHL teams like win the Calder Cup, and I look at the roster and I'm like, these guys are all like journeymen. They're all 26, 27 years of age. It doesn't feel like that's a development team. It feels like that's just a pretty good hockey team of adults. And I think sometimes the development side, and this depends on the organization in the AHL as well. Some of the AHL organizations are on the whole side of we've got to win, we're a championship, we're building a winner here. And others we're just, here to develop the prospects. And I think that's where it ends up when the CHL agreement is done. If more 18 and 19-year-olds are allowed to play in the AHL beyond this season, then I think you'll probably see a situation where there's more development. Now, where it might get tricky is this. You may have a player who's in the CHL that you might want to bring up to the AHL, but you don't have him signed to a contract. Like, there's the contract issues as well. And I've seen where players are maybe getting time in the AHL because they can't go back to the OHL Q or the Q or the WHL, depending on the situation. And yet they don't have an NHL contract yet. So there's a lot of situations here to go over. We'll see what happens, but that should be something to keep an eye on going forward. Because if GMs want this to change and the contract is up this year, things are probably going to change at least a little. It's not like the CHL can say, well, either you guys do this or we're not going to let you draft our players anymore. That's just not a thing. So the CHL, I don't want to see the league get hurt, but I also don't want to see prospects busting at the NHL level and you leave them in a rough situation where it's you can be here, you can be here. Yeah, there's a league right in here that might be perfect for you because you're not quite ready for this and you're way, way too good for this. But we can't put you here because we're not allowed, so we have to put you down here where you're going to be basically a man among boys, and we'll see how your development goes. Not only that, the other part of it too is that they have more direct control over how that player develops in the AHL than they have when they're in the junior league. So we'll see how things go. Let me know your thoughts regarding the junior agreement and how you feel about 18, 19-year-olds potentially playing in the AHL beyond this season. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.